Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming. My name is Holo and this is Deadlock. I have a long history with MOBAs. I've been playing them for over 15-16 years now. My first time was in the beta of League of Legends, I'm that old. And I've been playing all of the major ones on and off until I hit Paragon, where I really found a home. I found myself playing in very high elo, I had my own competitive team, we played in the tournaments. And since Paragon died, I haven't really found a home again in a MOBA, not until Deadlock, that is. Since then, I've got over 100 hours in like a couple weeks. I am genuinely very addicted. And during that time, as someone that's got a long history with, MOBAs, I've been trying to work out how to apply that information and knowledge I have from other MOBAs into this one, because the rules are quite different in many ways. So I wanted to make a guide on how to win with the core fundamentals of what that is and what you should do and focus on, but also to the point, as simple as I can make it. Massive topics, but, quickly covered. Remember though, this isn't a build or character guide. Itemization is a massive topic and something you should educate yourself on. But these are the fundamental concepts on how I win games, and I don't expect you to be able to learn and apply all of this instantly your next game. Pick one or two things at a time and work on them until you feel confident to work on something else I talk about today. So let's begin. I cut this up into 3 sections. Early game, which is pre 9 minutes, mid game, which is post 9 minutes, and late game when the respawn timers get pretty long, over 30 seconds. The early game is basically laning phase, and I cut this into just a few key things. The most important and easy thing to work on and have a huge impact is denies. These are vital, and the truth is you're probably not getting enough of them. What I want you to do is reality check yourself. At the end of every game, look at your stats and the graphs and go to the laning phase, and you can see your deny count and your soul count and how you really did. Let's say you average 5 or less denies. That is really unacceptable. Let's say you push to make that over 10 on average. That's significantly more power for you. Denies essentially give you more souls than you otherwise would have, but better, you actually take away from the enemy, halving the value they get from every last hit. It's the difference of having 1, 2, or more tier 1 items over them in the laning phase, which essentially gives you the power to bully them. So if you get really good at denying, on average, you're going to be way stronger, and that is just easier. Speaking of which, I want you to melee more. You want to be last hitting with melees as much as you physically can. Tap melee is way better than people seem to realize. Tap melee will finish off any trooper that's in its death animation. When it's at like 5 or less % health, it's doing that little wiggle dance. Any damage will finish it, including a tap melee. And because it's a melee, it won't send out its soul for a potential deny. I generally try to dash slide to any nearly dead trooper and tap melee them, or I use charge melees that have that movement to swing myself out from cover, landing on the melee. Melee is also incredible in the fight itself in the lane. Equal value as most actual abilities in this early stage. If you can land a melee, you should. But obviously, you need to think about parrying. If you're doing punches really obviously, you're going to get punished, and that's on you. What I mean by punching is suddenly doing it from behind them, from the side, from out from cover, when they're very clearly going for a last hit or punishing your ally. Find a way to land them, and it makes a massive, massive difference. Now, outside of denying more and meleeing more, to get things in control for you, push the wave into their tower as soon as possible. Unlike other MOBAs, you want the minions under their tower ASAP, because when the minions are at the tower, you now can have an easy time denying all of their last hits because they can't walk up and melee. They've got to hide behind cover or behind the tower. If they're not doing that, then you can poke them for free with your shots or your abilities or both. Essentially, they're under a lot of pressure and you're getting free denies, tower damage to kill it soon, or potential kills because you get to poke them for free whenever they try to last hit. Further, if you keep the wave at their tower, you have space to rotate to the adjacent lanes where you might get a kill, help your team get an objective, all before the wave even gets to your tower where you return to lose nothing. Genuinely, push the wave into their tower and keep it there as much as you can. It's stupidly strong. Outside of that, there's some basic movement to be aware of. Every time you dash, you should slide because you just go further, unless going uphill. However, by going downhill and sliding, you go way further. But I want you to think about the dash jump. While this requires 2 stamina bars, it's also the fastest burst of movement for 2 stamina. I use it mid-fight and early game in general to burst myself to the location, to land on a minion or a player, to punch them, or to be in the right position, or just escape a sudden attack. Speaking of sliding though, every time that you're attacking a tier 1, you're probably standing next to or on the stairs. There's no reason for you not to use the slide trick over and over to give yourself infinite ammo mid-slide. As you see me doing in loads of clips, I'm just sliding down the stairs, walking back up, and doing it again, all while shooting the tower. This essentially doubles your mag capacity to deal more damage in a short window to a tower whenever you're given the opportunity. The sooner you kill the tower, the better, right? So why deal less? use the slide. But that's the kind of fundamentals of early game for me without getting too complicated. Next, let's talk mid game, which is essentially after 9 minutes or after you've taken the enemy's tower in your lane. This means it's time to go to a different lane because your objective is to kill all the first towers in every lane, opening up flex slots and giving you loads of value in souls and AP. Even better in mid game, you want all of their walkers, though that can sometimes happen in late game. The first walker you get is going to be another flex slot, so it should be a priority. What I'm saying is that these objectives, these towers, they are significantly more important than anything else. In fact, kills are really low value in the mid game specifically. Kills in the early game can be great, kills in the late game are game winning, but in the mid game, their respawns are pretty short, to the point where you could be in a team fight, you kill 1 or 2 people, you're chasing for a little while, now the first 2 people you killed come back and kill you. Genuinely long fights are a nightmare in mid game, and I think it's where most leads are thrown away. Mid game is where the most self-control should be if you want to maintain a lead and actually use it to win. So my priority in the mid game as soon as it starts is after I've taken my tower, go get other towers, even deathballing to achieve it. Mid game is also where you're going to start really considering the jungle. What you want to do is farm what's near you every time that there aren't troopers available to farm in a lane. Pushing the lane into their walkers, into their towers, means free damage. Means the enemy have to go deal with that or lose loads of potential XP. So pushing lanes is simply more valuable than doing jungle. However, sometimes you can't push a lane, sometimes there's nothing near you, sometimes you just need to farm the jungle. So just kill jungle when it's on the way to something else, when you're not really given another option. Ideally though, I want you to be taking their jungle, not your own. At least that way you're taking from them, they don't have a jungle to farm because it's got to respawn, and then your team has more jungle to work with as well for more safe farm. Also, in the mid game, we should think about urn running and the importance of that. Urn running throughout the length of a game is actually a lot of souls. Each urn that spawns becomes more valuable than the last, so urn running in the late game is super valuable too. However, you don't want to urn run every time. Sometimes the game is pretty equal, maybe you're even behind, and so you're not looking for a team fight. By grabbing the urn, you're basically forcing a team fight because they're going to try stop you. If you're ahead and you want to fight, then perfect, do it. If not, you need to sneak it with correct timing, as I'm sure you know, or if you don't want it, pick up the urn and drop it in your base or like upper lane. It'll slowly return to its initial location, but all that time, they could have got it, they could have taken it and placed it down, and you've denied their potential to do that. This is also relevant in the end game. So value urn running a lot, it is important, but sometimes you can't do it. So don't let it bait yourself. Now also in the mid game at 10 minutes, the boss and bridge buffs will spawn the first time. These are extremely strong. Every time the bridge buffs spawn, you should be near them to pick them up. Having the right buff on the right character can be like another high tier item while it's on them, like gun on your hard carry ADC. The boss, on the other hand, while valuable in the mid game, becomes a lot more potent in the late game when the respawn timers are a lot higher. When you kill a few of the enemies in a team fight, that opens an objective play. And in the mid game, chances are that you haven't killed all their walkers yet, and you should do that instead of forcing an early boss or something. If you can take the boss for free though, obviously do. On that note, we need to talk about power spikes. This is massive during the mid game. Let's say you just finished a tier 3 item for 3k. That might be a power spike, but more likely buying multiple or even a tier 4 item. That's a massive power spike in the mid game. That's when you want to take advantage of that situation. Do something, force a fight, steal an objective. When you buy a big item or multiple, you're on a high. And that's the moment you want to go hard on the team because you have an advantage. You want to use it while you have it. If you chill, eventually they're going to buy items and you're going to lose that lead. Also, because this is a MOBA, I want you to expect nothing from your team, especially in the mid and late game. Don't speak to them, don't type to them, especially when they whine. You need to play for yourself, get safe farm, and outscale. You're looking to have a noticeable lead over the enemy, and then take fights that you're favored in to open up space for objectives while 2 or more of them are dead. That's my mantra throughout the mid game. If you are behind though, which this video isn't about how to win from behind, just know that denying all the souls that pop up from a dead tower or walker is massive. After 10 minutes, denies are 100% value to you, so it becomes insanely valuable to deny any last hit, especially objectives like towers and walkers, and you can get a lot of strength by getting more denies in the mid and late game. But now, finally, late game. This is where the long respawn times have begun, which means kills open up long opportunities to go do mid-boss, to transfer and earn, or other objectives like towers, walkers, and so on. Kills have now become way more valuable, but not necessarily because of the souls you get for the kill, but the respawn timer, which opens up that chance to do an objective. That's how you should view it. So let's say you've just got 2 to 3 kills. You should consider a boss kill now as your highest priority. The rejuvenator, when you have it, means for a little while you have half respawn time. So you get to do a free int fight. Take a crazy objective. You do something where maybe a couple of you die and a couple of them die, but you get an objective. Now you respawn quickly and they have the long respawn times, which means you're back to go for another objective while there are multiple men down. If you can't do a boss kill because you've only killed one of them, then go for a juiced earn run as a second priority. If you can't do that, then go for objectives like stealing their jungle or setting up the lanes in general. In the late game, you need to make sure before you go for any big fight or big objective that at least 3 of your 4 lanes are pushing into them. It is so easy to be split push punished when you don't manage your lanes and just keep taking silly fights. So with that in mind, try to avoid over chasing. If you've just won a fight and there's one guy that's alive and he's running around these alleyways and wasting your time, don't chase him. Just push a lane. Go hit a tower. You gotta have self-control in the late game. That's why I also don't recommend over farming jungle when you could be pushing a lane or taking an objective. If it isn't going fully in your favor, you could consider split pushing as a great technique. If you see that your team are now engaged with the enemy team somewhere and you're a bit too far away, you could just push a lane and sneakily take a walker or even guardians at the base. It's something I do all the time. If I look over at a team fight and go, I'm gonna be late to that, and even if I make it, I'm not sure that I'll make the difference, I know that I should immediately split push, because even if my team loses that fight, we're going to benefit from another flex slot or opening up their base in prep for the next team fight that we win. So if you're clearly not going to win the next team fight, take the safest objective every time. So that's how I cut up the early, mid, and late game and how to win in general. In recap then, in the laning phase, I want you to focus more on denies. Check your stats at the end of the game, be real with yourself, get better at this. Control the lane by pushing into their tower and either poke them while they're under it or farm denies. This creates great tower pressure early and makes it easy to pressure the enemy while they struggle. Alternatively, you can look for rotates on other lanes with the space you make. After you clear their tower though, it's time to roam and hunt and help your allies. In the mid game, jungle should be used to make sure you have no downtime. Always take minion waves when they're available, but if you can't, do the jungle. Just never ever find yourself doing a jungle camp when there's a massive wave right next to you could be doing instead. Ideally, you'd be taking the enemy jungle since, we want to deny them of everything possible, but sometimes you just do your jungle. Naturally, in the mid game, cap urns whenever possible, or use them to bait team fights or rotations, or distract for a split push opportunity. You should be putting a heavy focus on farming instead of killing. Once you reach a noticeable power gap, like 5 to 10k souls for your team, or maybe you just have like a tier 4 item over them, that's when you have a lead, that's when you want to force team fights. But to be clear, if a team fight looks good, take it. If someone's super out of position, kill them. You want kills, of course you do, but I'm saying to really weigh up the risk versus cost, and in the mid game, weigh up getting lots of farm higher than a kill or 2. In the late game, close games out by keeping your 4 lanes pushing into their base as much as you can. This creates objective opportunities or forces fights in your favor. With this, we can punish long respawn times with new objective kills. The boss will be your ideal, which then lets you force more fights and more objectives with your fast respawn. If you can't take the boss, take an urn or a tower, and if not, their jungle. That's how I prioritize it. So essentially, you're building a lead and catching people out with that, then punishing long respawns by taking objectives, and just repeat that. This is my simple overview of Deadlock macro to build on. Honestly, I could have spent an entire video on just early game or mid or late game, but I hope this was clear and effective information for you to work with. Just remember, take it one step at a time. Rome wasn't built in a day, and you're not going to be God's gift to Deadlock in a day either. Work on one thing at a time, and you'll be fine. I'd love to be able to make more videos about Deadlock. I am really into this game, so if you'd like to see more, please drop a like. For now though, I've been Hollow, you've been you, and thank you for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.